Hello all, and welcome to Texas. This is a brand new series where I'm going to review and comment on each installment in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre saga. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is my all-time favorite horror movie because it's just that awesome, but the rest of the installments can all lead to interesting debates. So I thought, why not do a retrospective and review of the entire series, which is exactly what I'm planning on doing, starting of course with the original. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was of course made in the 1970s and had a massive and profound impact on all of horror. The movie is lightly inspired by the actual killings of the infamous Ed Gein, but the details of his crimes are so changed in the film that they really bear no resemblance to what actually happened. Ed Gein never lived in Texas, he never used a chainsaw, and there wasn't an entire family of killers, it was just one guy. But nonetheless, despite the fact that this movie bears no resemblance to actual events, it states in the beginning that it is based on real events. But we'll get back to that later. Let's start with what the movie is actually about. So, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is about a group of people that go to a cemetery because a body of one of their relatives was supposedly tampered with. While on their way, they run low on gas and kind of have to seek shelter and end up at a house which is full of literally a family of cannibals, which ends up killing them off one by one by one. Now, why is there a family of cannibals? Why are they doing this? Why are they killing people? It's never actually explained in the movie, which is one of the things that makes the movie so fascinating. Their backstory is constantly hinted at, but never stated. There's a lot of hints dropped throughout the movie, so the viewer can kind of fill in the blanks. This kind of causes the film to stay with you well after you've seen it, and causes the movie to get under your skin, as it were. You could be thinking about this movie for days after you saw it. But yeah, there's no proper explanation for why the cannibals are killing people in the movie. But there's a lot of explanations hinted at. Namely, near the beginning of the movie, our main heroes are reading about astrology and their supposed destinies, and they're all very bad. They basically read out their horoscopes and it pretty much says, "You're doomed!" So this, of course, suggests that the cannibals have no real reason for killing. They're simply agents of destiny, killing our heroes simply because our heroes are supposed to die. That's all interesting, but not as interesting as the other suggested backstory that the cannibals are actually vampires. When the very first cannibal is introduced, the hitchhiker, he's literally called Dracula. Later on in the film, we meet Grandpa, one of the other cannibals, who seems to be dead until he drinks blood, which magically brings him to life and makes him all moving around. Also, given the way Grandpa looks, he seems to be over 200 years old, but he's still somehow kicking and somehow alive. Also, one of the other cannibals says they have to do this. They have to kill, but they don't really like it. Why would that be the case? Well, a possible explanation is that they have to kill because they have to feed, because they're actually vampires. Of course, they wouldn't be the traditional vampires. They don't die in sunlight or anything, but given those hints, the movie seems to be indicating that they are supernatural. Another explanation hinted at in the movie is that the cannibals used to work at a slaughterhouse, and given the way that they act, you can assume that they got used to killing, rather liked it, and when they eventually got fired for whatever reason, they kept killing because they couldn't live without it. All these explanations are very interesting, and it's left to the viewer to decide what to go with and what to think was the real reason behind it all, which is always cool. I like a movie that doesn't spell things out, that has a lot of faith in the viewer, and this definitely does. Another reason that this movie was so phenomenally well done is because nobody who made it enjoyed the process. It was an extremely stressful filming process. Everybody got hurt. It was really hot. Some of the blood in the film is actually real blood because some of the actors actually did get cut during the filming process. So everybody had a really stressful time making this. But this is a movie about people being scared for their lives and screaming their heads off and not wanting to die. So that stress and that panic from making such a hard movie translated into the film, and you can see it all on screen, making it feel very real. Our main character is screaming her head off, praying not to die, literally crapping her pants for most of the film. And let's just be honest, if some dude showed up with a big chainsaw, we'd probably crap our pants too. So it seems very real. Also, a lot of people have complimented the film for just how it's made. It's made in a very rough way, almost like a found footage film before there was found footage films. And that is very impressive. And of course, one of the things that made the film so legendary is, of course, Leatherface, the main cannibal who literally wears other people's faces and runs around with a chainsaw. Though Leatherface seems like a rather simple character, on a second viewing you realize there seems to be a bit more to him. He seems to act differently depending on the actual costumes or faces that he's wearing, almost like he tries to adapt different personalities based on how he's dressed. It's as if he has no proper understanding of how people act, but just tries to act how he thinks we're supposed to act, depending on what he wears. So if he wears a business suit, he'll be all tough and macho, whereas if he wears a costume that makes him look like an old woman, he'll be very pulled back and cleaning the house and that. Kind of stereotypical actions because that's all he understands. It's very interesting. Also, you notice on a second viewing that he tends to squeal like a pig in some scenes, almost indicating that he's like a wild animal. This suggests that he is a wild animal and he might not have a proper understanding of his actual actions. He might not realize what he's doing is wrong. So is he a real villain? That's all very interesting. The idea that if he was raised differently and in a different environment, would he have still been dangerous at all, is very interesting and could have been explored quite well. But it wasn't really. We will tackle that as we tackle the rest of the series. But the Leatherface, at least in the original, is an extremely fascinating character on multiple viewings. And so is the film itself. But no movie can be perfect, not even a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And the one flaw for this film that I can see is the opening text crawl, which tries to convince the viewer that yes, this all happened. Because no, it didn't. None of the events in this movie actually happened. Everything was so changed and so detached from reality, none of it was true. And trying to tell us that it is true is a bit dishonest. And it doesn't really add anything to the movie. It just kind of feels like a sales gimmick. It really happened! In my opinion, the opening text crawl should have been scrapped and should have gone straight into the movie. Now, it should be noted, though, in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake on the Blu-ray as a special feature, they have a documentary of Ed Gein and the actual killings so you can see what really did happen. And that's a very nice touch. But it's a little bit too little, too late kind of thing. But it is, obviously, just a nitpick. It's a very small thing, and it doesn't really hurt the film that much. Otherwise, this film is pretty much perfect, and I would highly recommend pretty much everyone to see it multiple times to get everything possible out of the film. Because as said, there's multiple different things you can get out of this movie, and it can just stick with you for days. So enjoy it to its fullest. Now, would number 2 ever live up to the legend that was number 1? We will find out when we take on that one next time.